Down for the Count with Brandon Medina and Dan Cialana.
Oh,
goodness gracious,
man,
ladies and gentlemen.
That's hard. Hits hard.
Hits hard. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, ESPN San Antonio proudly brings to you its 100-time tag team champions of the world. This is Down for the Count. I'm your man, Brandon Big Papi Medina. That is Dan Cialana. And as always, we got a little special guest, one of the more tenured special guests that we have on the show, Mr. Mike Mayer from Off the Mic Podcast. What is going on, gentlemen? Wow, it has been too long.
Yeah, man. It's like, I mean, really, WrestleMania was what, like 3 weeks ago already? Holy crap. It feels like an eternity since I've talked to both of you guys.
It has. And, you know, we've had kind of a more simple schedule recently. You and I, Brandon, the show has been a little bit of hiatus here. We had some life changes. You had, your girl had a baby. So
yes,
congratulations to the genetic jackhammer.
The genetic jackhammer. I'm just everybody knows you can now follow me at the genetic jackhammer, Brandon Medina on Twitter. I for sure will change my name.
Well, yeah, and you really are Big Papi, man.
Yes,
you really are Big Papi Brandon Medina. You're a proud dad now. Yeah.
He's living the gimmick now.
Yes.
Now, Brandon and Mike, the last time Down for the Count, we had a show. It was actually way back a few weeks before WrestleMania. And the last guest we had on there, we had that. Oh, God, I can't remember her name.
What was her name?
Was that wrestler? It was an up and coming female wrestler. And she ended up winning some kind of wrestling show.
Yeah.
The initials BB.
She's got a whole thing where like there's three letters. I can't remember, guys. Is it EST, right?
Something like that.
She was our last guest on our last episode of Down for the Count, and then she ended up winning the main event of WrestleMania.
Nothing too crazy.
Yeah, nothing too crazy. Yeah, no big deal. No big deal. Only the second WrestleMania main event involving women, and the first involving two black women.
Yes,
like, it's not like that wasn't like a huge deal or anything like that. So
and by the way,
you guys,
we called it, Brandon, because at the time of the interview when we talked to Bianca, it had not been, her match with Sasha Banks had not been officially named as the main event of the Saturday WrestleMania. But we said in our interview, we said, hey, it's going to happen. You're going to be in the main event with Sasha Banks, and you're going to win. And that's what happened. That's what they call the down for the count rub.
Yes, I completely agree. Every person that has been on Down for the Count has made an appearance. Now, have they been victorious? We cannot say, but have they made an appearance on WWE television or got pulled up to the main roster of AEW or whatever the case? It is the Down for the Count rub. It is a streak like no other besides the streak of mine refusing to pay for pay-per-views. So
the greatest streak in wrestling is not the Undertaker.
No.
Undertaker's WrestleMania undefeated streak. It's Brandon refusing to pay for pay-per-views. Easy for me to say.
Speaking of
and
pay-per-views,
by the way, yes, go ahead.
Pay-per-views, real quick. What was your guys' thoughts on watching it on Peacock this year? Like, because the thing that annoyed me is, I mean, obviously we're in an era where DVR is a thing. The thing that annoyed me is you could not pause it. Like you could not pause it. Like even like that was the biggest thing. And the fact that that happened, I mean, I could get it. It's a live thing, but it almost felt like kind of prehistoric, like old school pay-per-view days where you couldn't pause or rewind or like fast forward if you had paused. Like it was weird. Like it was really weird doing
I can understand if it was a free service. They say, hey, okay, if you want DVR privileges or pausing privileges, you got to pay more. But it's really silly to pay for something these days in 2021 to pay for an extra service where you can't pause it. So I definitely didn't like that because there's a lot of times in past WWE pay-per-views where, you know, if I got something else going on, I might start a little late. I'd stay off Twitter and Facebook to not see any spoilers, or I'll watch it the next morning, whatever. But I'm like, okay, I got to be here. I got to watch this thing. Not the worst thing in the world, but yeah, I definitely agree with you, Mike. Definitely kind of annoying.
Yeah, I think for me, I completely agree. I understand where you're coming from, Mike. However, we're paying less for Peacock than we are. So I think
you're
for
paying
me,
you're paying $250 a month
and
then $4.99 after that, which is less than what the WWE network. Remember, $9.99.
Yes,
they made sure about that.
Plus, you get all the Peacock stuff too. You know, I've watched some
Office. You can watch
movies.
The Office or something like that, or Parks and Rec.
My fiance has been loving the fact that we have more options for movies. So while she heals from literally delivering a life, Peacock's definitely up there on her movie trends.
With arms wide open.
It's crazy that I thought for a long time, I was like, you know what? I think Dan Cialana might be the singer of Creed for a while there.
Have you ever seen us both in the
I mean,
same
I couldn't
place?
I couldn't tell you the difference from hearing that, man.
I know you got to be careful. I might get flagged from YouTube. They're going to think we did some copyright stuff on there.
Yes, indeed. However, guys, it is an interesting week of wrestling, right? We've seen one of the most incredible clips of AEW, which we'll get into, but also we have seen a downward trajectory like we do most years in the past. Monday Night Raw is becoming almost unwatchable for me. How do you guys feel? Dan, first up, let's go with you. With Monday Night Raw, what's going wrong?
Well, I tweeted on Monday night. I turned into Monday Night Raw a little bit late, and I just watched a few minutes, and I tweeted, "Raw is unwatchable." And oh my God, I just feel bad for everybody on that show. They have so much talent there at WWE, and I just feel like, do they want to be there? Do they wish they were in NXT? Do they wish they can go at AEW? It's not a compelling show. It's a slog to slog through 3 hours of Monday Night Raw. You know, when we were on every week, I was watching it every week like homework. You know, so I'm like, okay, I knew we were gonna do the show this week again. So I'm like, I gotta watch it. I gotta do my homework. But man, it is rough. It is a rough watch. What do you think, Mike?
I'm with you guys. It's a slog. And I told Brandon before we got started here, like I rarely get bored. I really get engaged, even how bad it is. But that first hour, I almost shut the show off. I was that bored and just that pissed off, because here's the problem. WWE has this really bad habit, specifically, and I think 3 hours. I think we've talked about it. Like at least I know I've talked about it on my show. I'm pretty sure you guys have brought it up. I think the 3 hour thing is a huge issue here, and I think that's because you watch SmackDown. It seems like a much more seamless show. AEW. I talked about this on my podcast last night. Like they went from segment. Like they went from that parlay segment with the Inner Circle and the Pinnacle right to a Moxley and Omega and Eddie Kingston segment, like seamlessly. And you just don't see that on Raw. And it's just repetitive storylines, the same things every week, just in different forms. Like you had Mason T-Bar without their masks, basically the same formula that they did a 2-on-1 handicap match with a face coming in to save the other guy, and then Mason T-Bar get the win in the tag match on a technicality. And it's like, that's not original stuff. And then the thing that really bugs me is just the way they booked their women's division. Like, I mean, we knock on Nia Jax, but for God's sake, they make that woman look like a complete buffoon. Like the slip and slide stuff, and then her flirting with Angel Garza and Reginald. Like, it's like, that's your women's tag team champion. And then Rhea Ripley's just standing there on the apron while all of this is happening. And she's like an afterthought. That's like a prize. Like, we talk about Bianca Belair. Rhea Ripley's right there with Bianca Belair. So they don't book their women very well, and their top champions and their top storylines are just redundant, and they keep doing the same things over and over again, where it's just not watchable because you don't have a reason to come back.
Honestly, with Monday Night Raw these days, I can just watch the clips on YouTube the next day and kind of get a general idea of what's going on and not really feel like I've missed the show, because there's just nothing much going on. And I remember the days of Monday Night Raw when Monday Night Raw was the stuff. I'm trying not to curse here, but
was the stuff.
It was the
great circle of stuff. Yeah,
it was the great circle of stuff. It was the show. It was the main show. The show you couldn't miss.
Do you think the move that SmackDown now being the A show and being more invested in now being the Fox property, like that's been going on since 2019? Like, do you think that plays a role into that? I mean, I'm not saying that, NBC Universal isn't a priority. Like, they've been with USA forever. But do you think that kind of plays a role into this? Like, that they're just not as invested in making Raw what it used to be?
I think so. And I think, SmackDown, obviously it's on Fox Network. It's network TV.
Yeah.
It's going to get more of it's going to get more attention. I think WWE kind of in their hearts still thinks that Raw is their baby and their show, but they don't indicate that with their programming. They don't show that. Raw is it sucks. I don't know how else to say it.
Yeah, I think for me, going to what Mike said and a little bit of what you said, Dan, is Fox definitely has pushed SmackDown to new heights than what it was previously. SmackDown 2018 was definitely not the best show to watch, nor was Raw at moments of that year moving forward. I think 2020, the pandemic experience, has opened our eyes to a multitude of things, but what it's done is created a smarter consumer and a smarter wrestling fan. We know exactly what we're looking for. We know exactly what we like. There's so many options now that you're not going to events. Now that Dan and Mike and Brandon can't just look at a calendar or get an update that, hey, Monday Night Raw is coming to San Antonio, and then you're going to be watching every Monday Night Raw before that so you can be prepped up for that event. Now you can watch Ring of Honor. You can go watch NWA. You can go watch AEW, NXT, WWE, Impact Wrestling. The options are absolutely endless. And if you're working from home, like many of us are, New Japan Pro Wrestling is also an option. Yeah. You can stay up late, watch New Japan. And they have, when you start watching New Japan, it's a lot harder to come back to what we have currently because New Japan really goes in with their products. And I think AEW is for the smart wrestling fan, for the diehard wrestling fan. And WWE, unfortunately, is still the baby, still the love and the culture fit for many, but it's starting to fall behind as far as content. It's not easily watchable. I'm sure all of us here have tuned into Monday Night Raw and tuned out early because of the fact of the matter that it's just not as entertaining.
How about this, Brandon? Our guy, Nick Trey from Energy 94.1, frequent co-host, guest co-host for Down for the Count. He's got a little conspiracy theory about why Monday Night Raw sucks. Nick says, I think they're purposely trying to have USA not renew their contract by putting out half-ass shows because they want to jump to another network. How about that? Mike Mayer from Off the Mic Wrestling Podcast, is Nick correct? Is WWE sabotaging Monday Night Raw because they want to get fired? It's kind of like when you hate a job, you want them to fire you so you can get the unemployment.
So you get out. So you get out. I mean, that's not a terrible conspiracy theory because you just look at these shows. And I mean, obviously you hear the stories about how they're rewriting the stuff in show and Vince McMahon showing up late. It just doesn't seem like they're putting the same concerted effort into Raw that they are into SmackDown and NXT. Like, you watch SmackDown, it is night and day. Like, Roman Reigns, and a lot of it has to do with Roman Reigns and just how he has carried that show since he came back from the pause that he had in his life. He obviously had another kid, and obviously there was the scare with COVID. Since he has come back, and I think we can all agree on this, he is the best thing that WWE has right now. And this is the Roman Reigns, frankly, that we should have seen when he split off from the Shield. This is the Roman Reigns we should have seen. And I don't know where the hell it was, but that is why SmackDown is so engaging. On top of it, you got Daniel Bryan, you got Edge to come over there for a feud, which was great. But just everything about that show, even the women's division, Sasha and Bianca, even though they booked it really crappy, like, the stuff there is a lot more engaging than what the hell they got going on Raw. And it's just, like I said, the storylines are repetitive and redundant, and they just don't give you a reason to come back and tune in that there's going to be something different that's going to happen the next week.
Definitely. And one huge difficulty that WWE has had recently is staff changes. There was a big, there's lots of wrestlers and behind the scenes staff fired recently, including, oh my God, I have to stand up here, my beloved Iconics. Wearing my Iconics t-shirt because I am so sad that Billy Kay and
It's
Peyton
vintage
Royce.
now.
I know this is I got to put this under glass or something. You know?
Yeah, you gotta mint that up and like put it up in like a case or something. Yeah,
fired a bunch of folks at WWE. Fired Samoa Joe.
That was ridiculous. Like that was ridiculous. Like, I mean, guys, we've talked about it. Samoa Joe is one of the most talented wrestlers in the world. And he has been, granted, he has been dinged up a lot. But he suffered through the whole pandemic era behind commentary, and he was really good at it. Like, commentary could be really rough sometimes. Like, look, I'll say this. Look, I like Adnan Virk from his ESPN days. It's just not a good fit on commentary at Raw. It's just not working. Like, I mean, I can tell you 3 weeks in that it's just not working. McAfee, on the other hand, is great. I think that's actually worked out really well.
James Pledger is a football hero.
Yes.
Yes.
McAfee.
And Brandon as well.
Yes. But yeah, Samoa Joe, like, I thought he could have been a good challenger for Lashley at some point if he was healthy enough. Like, he never got the title push. Like, he had 2 title runs in NXT and he had a US title reign. That's it. That's all he had.
I will say, speaking on McAfee, Dan, this has been almost a year since, I mean, I don't know of a year, maybe a little less, but McAfee, when he first came to the WWE for the NXT match, you were like, who is this guy? He's not going to draw. Why is he here? Here we are, fast forward almost a year or maybe over a year. I have no idea. But since Pat McAfee's involvement in NXT, obviously he was always involved with WWE and some of the pre-shows and all that. But since his involvement with NXT, what do you have to say? Are you finally going to apologize and acknowledge the talent that Pat McAfee has and brings to the table?
I'll say this about Pat McAfee.
What do you got to say for yourself?
He puts in the work. I'm skeptical. I don't give a crap about football.
So does Bad Bunny.
Right? I don't give a crap about, I don't care who's drafting to what, or I don't know if they're going to float in on a boat or something. No, that was last year, right? Las Vegas.
Also,
anyway, I don't know what the hell.
Speaking of, Dan, the draft, whoever is watching throughout, I know I read and I heard that the draft song or one of the preview for the songs is the NWO song.
Okay.
Child,
Hollywood or Wolfpack.
By the way, another wrestling tie-in here.
Yes.
Jacksonville Jaguars with Tony Khan.
Exactly. We're able to tie in everything, baby. Listen, NFL draft,
I was tweeting about this, and somebody threw it out there. Some writer who is a wrestling fan as well, and he threw out, "Hey, maybe Trevor Lawrence could be at an AEW event." I was like, "Dude, they should totally have him in the crowd at Blood and Guts next week. That's like a huge opportunity. That's like a huge opportunity. Like, I know we're losing Dan here for a second because I know he doesn't care about football. But Trevor Lawrence is going to be the first pick in the draft by the Jaguars.
He should be there he should be there at a
absolutely,
show.
And they should pan to him and basically say, "Hey, that's the first," and he's gone. Gone.
How about Trevor Lawrence? Trevor Lawrence pins.
Oh, for God's sake!
What would you do? Trevor Lawrence. Listen, you didn't.
That's
trust
the wrong
Pat
show,
McAfee.
man. That's the wrong show.
McAfee. But anyways,
but here's a show. Here's a show that we can all agree on. I think the three of us here. AEW Dynamite.
Yes.
Doesn't hit it out of the park every week, but last night I think they did it absolutely solid show. And I know Mike here was a big fan of that
Yeah.
Pinnacle versus Inner Circle exchange parlay. Let's take a look at it. Let's take a little look at that.
Let's
Ever
take a
since you
listen
came
to
into
that.
AEW, you've been a failure. And actually, Spears, the more I think of it, you were a failure where you used to work too.
I'm gonna take off that heavy burden of a crown off your head and place it atop mine, and my family is going to replace the Inner Circle at the mountaintop here in All Elite Wrestling. You are not gonna get in the middle of the Inner Circle, and you're not gonna beat us at Blood and Guts. You won't make us submit, and you are gonna have to kill us to make us surrender. You are going to have to kill us to make us surrender. And when that doesn't happen, we're going to step on you like the pile of crap that you are, wipe our feet on the concrete, and look down at the only spot that you deserve.
Man, now check out the entire promo on YouTube if
Oh,
you haven't
yeah,
already.
it's-
It was good stuff. That's how you sell a match right there.
I mean, we see like big matches get promoted and we see go home shows, and like WWE has had a really bad habit of just having underwhelming go home shows. That is how you promote a big time match. My excitement level was here. It's out of the picture right now. Like
Very excited. You see how excited Mike was?
Yeah, it's
I think I see it coming from under the picture as well, popping up. I'm not sure.
I know.
I'm not too sure. However, I will say, I will say, you guys are absolutely right. This is a huge thing for AEW. This is going to knock it out of the park. They're going to probably win the ratings war with this one. We were just talking about it, me and Mike.
Yeah.
I think this has a huge opportunity to be one of, if not the biggest shows that they've done, that they've produced.
I think it's going to be the biggest. It's going to go bigger than the debut that they had in October of 19.
And it's not even a pay-per-view, right? It's just
not
a
even
regular Dynamite.
It's just a regular Dynamite. I mean, it's going to be a pay-per-view level show. But like to Brandon's point, I talked about this on my podcast, the Off the Mic Wrestling podcast, and I mean, it could be considered a hot take because people in the industry still aren't quite yet. I mean, because it's only been a few weeks, but they've consistently, and I didn't see the number that they pulled for this week, but I'd imagine it's still in that 1 million range that they've been in consistently since NXT moved to Tuesday nights. But yeah, I told Brandon, I was like, and he even said, hey, it's not that much of a hot take. I think because Raw has been so bad and not engaging, and yes, they're on separate nights, I think AEW is going to get a bigger number. It's going to be the biggest number that they've ever had, and they're going to beat Raw this week or next week. And hopefully that sends a message to Vince McMahon that something that he never thought would ever happen is AEW is going to beat him. And think about that, guys. Like, we've been talking about AEW being a competitor to Raw for so long, and now there's a real possibility because they did such a great job of promoting this match and making you it's the complete opposite of what Raw does. It makes you want to come back and watch Blood and Guts, because not only that, you're getting the world champion Kenny Omega facing Jon Moxley in a tag match with, I mean, Michael Nakazawa is there too, and then you've got Eddie Kingston. I mean, Michael Nakazawa is there. I mean, they're friends, but like I said, we know why Michael Nakazawa is there. He's pretty much there to probably take a pin or something, but still, like, you got that. You got Britt Baker on the show. You've got a fatal 4-way tag team match. Like they did a Cody facing QT Marshall in what's been a low key great mid card level feud that they're doing there. So what they did last night just is pretty much, to me, solidified that they're going to beat Raw this week. And I'm glad that I have people who don't think that I'm insane. So thank you, Brandon.
Yeah, Dan, what do you think about that?
I think AEW is on track to beat Raw, to be the number one weekly show of wrestling. You know, it's funny because originally AEW kind of, when they decided to be on Wednesday night, they did it out of a good faith sort of competition thing with WWE. They said, you know what, we're not coming to take over your company. We're not coming to take your fans. We're not going to go to Monday night. We're going to go to Wednesday night. And at the time, there was no Wednesday night cable show.
Right.
NXT was on the WWE network, so it had a much smaller profile. So AEW was like, yeah, we're going to go on Wednesday night just to sort of like, you know, to show, hey, we're not trying to fight with you guys. And then NXT moves to Wednesdays to compete. And now NXT goes away and WWE.
Yeah.
Well, according to WWE, no. They just decided to go on Tuesdays. That's what they decided to do because everything's competition. Come on. We know why they moved NXT to Tuesdays.
You got your ass kicked.
Got your ass kicked. And maybe that's the reason why there's been some staff changes. Mark Carano fired from WWE, and actually the guy who set up the interviews for our show got fired too. Poor guy, good guy. So there's been a lot of things behind the scenes going on. Now, one person who got fired from WWE who didn't deserve it, and at the very least she didn't deserve to be fired the way she did, was Mickie James. And they're calling it Hefty Gates, because when she was fired from WWE sent her items, her personal items, in a trash bag.
I was pissed, like I'm pissed on it, but I'm like angry in a different, like I don't want to come across as just angry, because I'm not, it's just more of like, it is a direct reflection of everything that I've experienced, and coming back and trying to even, I was happy to take a back seat and take a trainer role or take something. All I asked for was like, hey, can I get an out? Like, can I get something that just kind of can curtsy out the door? It was never about, I want one last run, or I want to still be a wrestler for the next 5 years or anything. All I wanted was just a little respect.
And I've been there before. I've been there, when you lose a job, whether it's voluntary or not, the way that your managers treat you on the way out the door is very important. And I don't think WWE was trying to piss her off or offend her by saying, hey, you're trash, so we're going to put this stuff in a trash bag. I think they were just being careless and tacky. I don't think they were trying to be mean to her. But it has to be put in the context of WWE and their reputation for being petty. So what do you guys think? Do you think it's much ado about nothing? Do you think people are right or wrong to be upset that Mickie James, her stuff was sent in a trash bag?
Yeah. So for me, there's two huge mistakes WWE has done. Well, three really. I think they let go of some incredible back office people, some incredible writers, some incredible production people in the back end of things. But also the big two that stand out to me are, one, and possibly number one above this, that I'm sure we'll get into, is you let go of a once in a generation talent in Samoa Joe. And that's going to come to bite you in the ass, no doubt. Mm-hmm. Whether you believe it or not, it's going to come to bite you in the ass 100%. Give him time to get out of his contract, and whatever, contract negotiations went down, whenever his full rights are released and he can go work elsewhere, it's going to mess him up. But this story has blown up social media in a way that WWE does not need right now, in a way that's going to take away viewership when AEW is producing possibly the best content they've ever done. It's going to pull away fans. When you're doing stuff like this and still giving us the half-ass POS show we're seeing on Monday nights, it's enough to make somebody who loves the product say, you know what, this isn't for me anymore. Let me go elsewhere.
And let me be really fair here, calling WWE petty, like other wrestling company, no wrestling company is perfect. And there's been behind the scenes stuff with AEW, between our show and AEW, where frankly, AEW has been kind of petty with me. Okay. That's just real talk right there. Right. So I don't want everyone to think like WWE super evil and AEW, they're angels. Like every company has, excuse me, punch my microphone. Every company has something. All right. But it just, I'm sorry. I'm all flustered now because
I get it. I will say, I think the way it was handled obviously was completely wrong. Mickie James deserves much more than that. She's a future Hall of Famer.
Yeah, right. That's a 6-time women's champion. That's a 6-time women's champion, and not just that, guys. Think about her return and everything was completely forgettable. Like I felt they could have done a lot more, and I know she said in that clip that she didn't really want to. Like she would have been fine taking a trainer role. I felt that maybe she could have gotten another run, or hell, like you had her sitting around after her ACL. She came back from her ACL. I mean, there were a bunch of people she could have worked with. Like she's that good. I mean, and let's face it. I mean, yeah, she's in her 40s, but she can still go with the best of them.
She's 41. Yeah. And she was mentioning in this podcast, it's the podcast she hosts with Victoria. It's called Grown Ass Women. She mentions elsewhere in that podcast, she's saying, hey, I'm 41 years old. WWE was treating me like I was a senior citizen, where there's
ironic
guys
is ironic because, hey, you're bringing in Goldberg, who's in his 50s, and we don't want to see him anymore. I mean, and you were going to the Undertaker. Granted, the Undertaker's hung him up. And like, look, I know Bobby Lashley is in peak physical condition and he deserves to be the champion right now, but he's 44. So
I mean, do they make senior citizen jokes about almost said Al Snow? AJ Styles? Do they make senior citizen jokes about AJ Styles?
No way.
Same age as Mickey James, like give or take a couple years.
I will say though, I'm interested, and again, this is we're diving into it, and I think I'm going to stray off a little bit. And I apologize, Dan and Mike. However, being co-host with my boy Dangerous Dan, sometimes you got a little dangerous, and you got to throw the show off the rails a little bit. And my question to you guys is, with Dan, you just brought up AJ Styles being treated as a senior citizen, right? When we shift over to the Samoa Joe news, all that stuff. Now you have Samoa Joe, Christopher Daniels, a lot of people that AJ Styles probably holds very true, near, and dear to his heart. And AEW's doing a lot of incredible stuff. Would we be very surprised to see AJ jump ship and go back to almost?
I think his contract's up. I think his contract's almost up. And I mean, look, Daniels and Kazarian. I mean, it looks like they're going to end their partnership very soon because. I mean, SCU is going to probably end up facing the Young Bucks based off what we saw on Dynamite last night. And the stipulation that they kind of put on themselves is if we lose again, we're not going to be a team anymore. And guys, like if you've ever watched Impact, Samoa Joe, AJ Styles, and Daniels had one of the great triple threat matches of all time, of all time in the history of that company. And they're originals there. So look, that's a hot take, man. I don't know how much he's got left. He's pretty much been a pretty good company man for the most part since he got to WWE in 2016. But look, it's a real conversation starter now. And I mean, you got to hope, at least since we like WWE, that, like I said, I kind of hope that AEW does beat Raw this coming week, because if they do, maybe that puts the fire in Vince McMahon and everybody, one of the writers on Raw, to actually start producing better content. Because this isn't just a post WrestleMania thing. This has been going on for a while now.
And I think the reason I bring it up is because, you know, you keep your friends close, you keep your enemies closer, right? This happens to be in both wheelhouses. You keep your friends in Samoa Joe and Kazarian and Daniels, and then your enemy, of course, when it comes to competition with AEW, you look at the product they're doing, you look at how they're treating their employees and their wrestlers there. WWE doesn't even look at you as an employee, right? You're very much indispensable. You're very much easy to replace. Body. You're a body there to perform. And when you look at wrestlers like, you know, you and Dan are huge fans of, you know, wrestlers like Cesaro, like Nakamura, who's not getting any love these days. Like people like that.
It took them 7 years to figure. I mean, they gave Cesaro the push, and now it seems like finally 7 years. It took him 7 years.
Same with Kofi.
Kofi, like the only reason Kofi got it is because the fans were so like Ali got hurt, and then the fans were so relentlessly in support. It was basically another Daniel Bryan thing, and he faced Daniel Bryan. Like that's the Kofi Mania was one of the best storylines of maybe the last 5 to 10 years, and it wasn't in the cards. It wasn't planned.
And you would think that WWE these days, knowing that people can jump ship to go to AEW, go to Impact Wrestling, and that a lot of most fans won't see it as a downgrade. You would think that WWE would say, you know what, we need to create an environment where people don't want to leave here. But instead, it seems like WWE is just doubling down on their BS, saying, you know what, you know, we're the king of the mountain. We'll do whatever we want. And they're going to lose some good people. They're going to lose some great talents. And it just... Years ago, CM Punk did that pipe bomb I know Brandon always makes fun of me because I always think wrestling's real, but he said a lot of real things in that pipe bomb. One of the infamous lines was that CM Punk said that things around here won't change until Vince McMahon dies. Now, I'm not wishing death on Vince McMahon, but I'm just saying, like, I don't think anything's going to change until Vince McMahon is out of the picture, whether he retires or he's incapacitated. So I don't know.
Yeah, and I hear what you're saying, and I do think, unfortunately, it has to be true. I mean, it's never rung true more than now. But you would assume, like you said, that even though they can jump ship, that they would treat their employees better. But also, I mean, why would you warrant this type of social media reaction with sending Mickey James stuff? Like whoever did, I know they mentioned whoever did that was fired already, but like, How is that an idea for somebody to do that? How is that even in the picture for somebody to do that? And what I've noticed, guys, and I'm sure maybe you have too, all of us consume wrestling content in different avenues, right? It's not just in the ring wrestling content. I know A&E is doing some incredible new content stuff with WWE. They're doing like biographies on wrestlers. They're doing like a show that's like almost like a little treasure hunt for WWE artifacts, and that's been awesome. I've been watching all of that, and it's great TV, right? But it's almost as if the WWE product line is going, let's put out as much content and not focus on what made us where we are, and that's in-ring action, in-ring storylines. And I think it's suffering for not only us, but for many. I mean, I know for myself on the hiatus, Dan, I'll be quite honest with you. I didn't watch any go home show for WrestleMania. The Raw after Mania was god awful. It was not nearly as good as many you've seen before. So for me, I just haven't even been in tune with wrestling until I knew we were going to bring the show back today.
Same here, like I started watching WWE again pretty much this week, catching up because it's like
I've suffered.
Because I knew.
So good for you guys. I've suffered through all.
Yeah,
the BS.
Mike's watched every show.
I'm a warrior. I do it for you, the people.
Thank you.
I guess I am the people's champion of wrestling podcast host, I guess. So
yeah, you're being tortured.
It's just I go through the torture, and it's like I'm pulling out my hair every week. Where it's like, man, can we do something better? Like, because it's frustrating to see like talented people be involved in crap. Like I talked about Rhea Ripley earlier. They can't figure out what the hell to do with her. Like, is she a face? Is she a heel? Yeah. And then she's standing on the apron and is a secondary part of what's going on with Nia Jax and the water pail thing with Mandy Rose and Dana Brooke. And you've got Asuka there, who's freaking great. And it's just all of this crap that's going on. Even the segment with Miz and Morrison, like, and what also a side note here, what the hell is John Morrison not doing wrestling over Jackson Riker? What the hell was that? What the hell was that? In a 6-man tag, why the hell is John Morrison standing on the ground and Jackson Riker's wrestling? Like, but the tomatoes being thrown at them in that segment, it's like, what are we doing? New Days, we all love New Day. Like, why are you doing like an a cappella session and then throwing tomatoes at these guys? That's like
I said earlier, I felt embarrassed for every wrestler on that show. I felt embarrassed that they had to do that their talent's being wasted on just this cheesy. I don't even know who the target audience of the show is anymore.
Moxley's been. I remember when Moxley left a couple years ago, like when he talked about it, like, and he would flat out read scripts that he was fed, and he would just say it's crap. And it was like, what the hell is this? Like the whole heel turn gimmick where he was taking rabies shots, like that sort of stuff. Like he was, and you see how much better he is in AEW because he's allowed to be 100% authentically him. Like even Miro. Like he was on record saying stuff like that. Like you see all of these guys and people are trying to make a knock of, oh, these are WWE retreads. It's like you just see in AEW, these guys are allowed to be themselves. Jericho's another example. They didn't know what to do with him. And that's one of the most talented guys ever. In my opinion, one of the great wrestlers of all time. So it's just like you see them in AEW and you see what they did in WWE and you're like, it's night and day because they're allowing these people, they're not writing for them. They're doing their own thing and they're allowed a certain level of creative freedom.
And the big thing, I know our buddy Nick Trace chiming in saying, I can't wait to buy a ticket to Raw again just to boo all night. I love it, but
no, get it free from ESPN San Antonio.
Yeah, get it free from ESPN. Yeah, don't worry about buying tickets. We got you, Nick. Now, the one thing I do want to highlight is I know early in the show, and I think this can be one of the last topics before we get out of here, is Nick had also mentioned, and I know it's been on the topic of mind for all three of us, and it's something that I think we've seen a lot on wrestling Twitter and communities within wrestling online, is 3 hours of Dynamite might be something that they're looking to do. And I think that is the downfall of Monday Night Raw. I think that is where Monday Night Raw got lost.
I mentioned it earlier. Yeah, it's just like, because not only do you have so many talented people in there, but when you don't have the ability to write and fill these shows, it just tends to drag. The reason why SmackDown's been able to work, and it's because 2 hours, it goes by so quick. I mean, even if you have a bad segment here and there, it just doesn't feel like it dragged. The first hour of this show from Raw this past week, it dragged because it was redundant and it was the same type of things. And then you add on the fact that you have 3 hours of it and you're going from 5 to 8 out here Pacific time. For you guys, it's 7 to 10 Central time. So for you guys, so it's just like, it feels like it drags. And it's, look, like I get the concept. 3 hours seems like a novelty. Like initially when it was brought up, I was like, oh great, an extra hour of wrestling content. But it's like, no, you don't want that, because I think it's less is more. Like if I'd rather put out better content in less time than drag it out over 3 hours. I'd rather do that. I mean, if you want to do a 3-hour pay-per-view show, that's fine. Do it for the bigger events, but don't do it for like a major television show weekly.
I agree. I've always thought it's better just to leave the audience with wanting more versus like, is this over yet? So I'd rather watch a wrestling show go, damn, it's over already. I wish it was longer versus like, when the hell is this going to be over? Now, speaking of when the hell is this going to be over, we only got a couple more minutes left here on tonight's show. So I wanted to take the chance to congratulate friend of the show, Roxy.
Yes.
Mike, you remember her because you were guest hosting the night that we had Roxy on the show.
She's
Roxy, great person. She made her Ring of Honor debut this week. So congratulations to Roxy.
Good for her.
And I hope to get to see her this Saturday. I'll be at Mission Pro Wrestling up in Buda at Pinball's Kingdom. Roxy will be on the card there. Hope to see her in person. Also, this Saturday at that May 1st show, our friend Alex Grassi will be there. She's been on the show several times. Jasmine Allure, she's been on the show. And of course, Thunder Rosa will be there. So looking forward to seeing all those ladies in person. That's going to be this Saturday at Mission Pro Wrestling, Pinball's Kingdom in Buda. Or is it Buda? I don't know.
I think
it's town. And also, speaking of Alex Gracia here in San Antonio on May 2nd, Sunday, that's this Sunday, she'll be doing a meet and greet at the wrestling shop. So go ahead and meet Alex. I think it's going to be 1 to 4 p.m. this Sunday. Meet our friend Alex Gracia this Sunday. And Alex has so many dedicated fans. Like, she literally has fans that are flying from New York just to meet her. So
wow,
that's big time there. So congratulations to all those ladies. And I'm looking forward to seeing them all this weekend and saying hi, representing Down from the Counts.
Yes, absolutely. And thank you all for joining us. It has been a pleasure getting back together. Thank you, Mike, for jumping on and talking with us some more wrestling.
It's always a blast talking wrestling with you fellas.
Absolutely. And that is the bottom line, because Down for the Counts
said so.